Hi, I'm Corey. Welcome to Creating with Scraps. Today is the second day of the Scrapbusters idea book list of items that I use or that I make when I may have a lot of scraps. And yesterday we talked about journal cards and clusters, and I didn't show you how to make them simply because I've shown clusters so many times, and journal cards can be one of so many different things. Today, the next two items on my list are bookmarks and envelopes. And while those are pretty self-explanatory, everybody has a different idea of what a bookmark is and what an envelope. When I say bookmark, you can certainly use them as writing spots and such, but I generally use it to hold a place in my journal so that I know where I am in my writing and such. But they can be made with just about anything. Many times a masterboard can be cut into a bookmark, and you certainly don't have to round the corners like I didn't here. And it's just a simple layered scrap of card with some different pieces on it, and then I sewed around the edges. But even then, it doesn't have to be sewn around. I just do it to put it down. Here, it's just some book page and some napkin, paper napkin. Here, it's just plain old single or double-sided cardstock, just a piece of cardstock. And I put a little pocket on the front. You know, certainly don't have to. It can just be the plain piece of cardstock. This is one with just a little bit of card on the back, book page, and then the Tim Holtz tissue paper laid on top with some bits. And again, if you're new here, I generally, when I put the ribbons on top, I sew them across the top rather than tying them, simply because it gives it a lower profile and it makes it more flat. And this one is just, you know, a little bit more elaborate, but it's still a bookmark. It's got, I've got a jump ring around the top, and I put another little tag and a charm on it. And this one opens up into a writing space as well. But bottom line, it's still a bookmark. And the beauty is, you can see it's collaged horizontally going across the page. Here it's collaged vertically going up and down the page. It can be rectangles, it can be anything. But the beauty is, bookmarks come in super handy. They can take the place of a tag so that you are not having page after page of tags, but it also works really well just to mark your spot in the journal. So one of the two items today is bookmarks, and here's just a few samples. Another one of the items on today's list is envelopes, and I probably make these second to clusters as far as how often I make them when I've got my scraps, just because they're super fast, they're super easy. I have an envelope punch board, which you certainly don't have to have. A scoreboard will work, or some kind of a scoring tool. You can, make the standard envelope. You can make coin envelopes. You can do simple little fold over envelopes. This one literally is just folded and folded and folded with a piece left at the top. This is out of vellum, and these are ones that I love. Oh, here we go, little itty bitty coin envelopes, just super tiny. You can use punches. There are punches that make these envelopes. There are stencils where you can trace them and cut around them. There are patterns, free downloadable patterns on the internet. You've seen me use the envelope punch board. This is the little itty bitty one, but there's a bigger one as well. Or you can just use a piece of paper and fold it over so that make sure you've got enough for a flap at the top. And then what I do is I will come in, well, here, since I've got it, I'll come in and score, I didn't even measure this, about 1/4 of an inch on each side or so, 3/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch, whichever, it really doesn't matter. And then I will just you can see the score lines there. And then I didn't even cut them, make them straight. Okay, it'll still work. I'll come in and cut down to where the fold is, or where the score line is, where the top of the envelope meets. And let me think here. And then I'll fold down like this. And then either the front or the back, and it doesn't really matter which ones you choose. You're going to cut and cut. I mean, this is, like I said, super, super, super simple. And cut at an angle and cut at an angle. I've got another video, a couple videos that show how some different ways that you can you know, make envelopes, and they're all over the internet. But this is a little bit big for a scrap envelope, but still, it certainly could be. This was a leftover piece of cardstock from a project. Oops, sorry. And if you were wanting a little bit bigger envelope, here you go. You can see I didn't do it carefully. I didn't take a lot of time with it. And then you just fold in these flaps. Oops, got to cut them at the top too, just to make it easy to glue. Okay, then I've just kind of got a super simple envelope. Didn't score it well, but that's okay. And then you just come in and glue this down here. So you've got a gusseted envelope. You could cut this down, you could cut a divot out of it, but it's literally that simple. Just, you know, with scraps, make an envelope. One of my favorite things, or ways to make these envelopes, is these Gibbed-Neary envelopes that are pieced together and sewn. Here's just one sample. I've made these several times, but I thought I'd show you really quickly how I do it. And what I do is the end product is based on what size scraps I've got. And I usually use my envelope punch board when I make these. And it just gives you kind of a different look, piecing together different papers. And so the way I usually start that is I get 3 scraps of paper, or 4 or 5 or whatever. But I usually, because I generally tend to make smaller envelopes, I usually use 3. And they can be torn or they can be straight. Here's a piece of vellum. Here's a piece of, I don't know, fiber paper. And then here's just a piece of crocodile paper. And then I will lay these down. I'll overlap them a little bit. I want them, let's see, I'm going to zoom in just a bit. Okay, I'll overlap them just a little bit and a little bit like that. Okay, so I'll lay them down something like so. And then I'll just put glue on to tack them into place. And then my next step will be to come in and I'll sew it. And I'll use my sewing machine just because I like the way it looks, but you don't have to. You can just use glue. Here I used a combination of straight stitches and zigzag stitches, so you can see that, you know, either one will work. It doesn't matter which you choose. And then I'll come in and I'll make it square. When you're using the envelope punch board, you want I'll zoom back out a little bit. When you're using the envelope punch board, you want square papers, and so I will just measure my length and my width. And this one, I think I'll do a 5 by 5 because that should work. And all right, so I've made my rectangular piece into a square, and then I will get my envelope punch board, and so my shape is 5 by 5. Now, if I needed a specific size, this has a size guide on it, but my piece is 5 by 5, so I'll use the 5 by 5 dimension to decide what size, where to punch it on my board. And this there's none for 5 by 5, but 4 7/8 and 4 7/8 is close enough. And so I'll score it at rough, or I'll punch the first punch. The only time I measure it is the very first time. And it's 5 by 5, so if I wanted a square envelope, I would punch it at 2.5. But I don't generally use a lot of square envelopes, so I am going to just alter it a little bit, and I'll go to 2 3/4. So I measured my first spot, I punched to take out the notch, and then I use this scoring tool to crease it. And then I line up the crease with the edge and the notch here, and I punch. See, I'm not measuring anymore. I only measure the first time. And then each time you just line up where you've creased, make your notch, and then score again. And this is really old thin paper, excuse me, so it probably wasn't the best choice. That book page is really old, so it might not hold up real well, but that's, yeah, so you know, I scored it right off. So I learned from my mistakes, use a little bit thicker paper. I could put, and I probably will, I'll put a piece of, you know, here, let's just do it. Let's see, that is a lighter color, so I'm going to get a lighter colored washi, maybe, if I can figure it out. Okay. So lighter colored washi, because you can see I tore it here. And I'll come back in and I will just, washi is thin, so it should work pretty well. And I want it to go up to the edge. And I'm going to have to put more, oh, I guess that's the end of that washi. All right, and I need a piece on this side too because that's, I tore it there as well. And these won't show because they're going to be on the inside of my envelope. There we go. All right, so I fixed my mistake with washi. The punch board has a little corner rounder at the edge here, but I generally tend to grab this just because it's easy. And I generally use the 1/4 inch, but you don't even have to round it, truthfully, if you prefer not to. And then I generally ink it before I fold it down. Okay, let's see. So I'm going to do it this way because I tore this side. So you fold in your 2 side pieces, and then you fold up your bottom flap. See, and on this particular one, you can't even see that I used washi to fix my mistakes. It doesn't show. This is just where the thread ended. And I've got, I would put glue right here and here after I've inked it. And then I can fold the top down. And there's my envelope, and you can see the little sewing lines and the different textures that it gives. And I generally try to avoid putting the corner right at a crease, but yeah, I didn't measure it that carefully this time. But there is the envelope doing that. So, oh, there we go. So those are today's projects. Where did I put them? Aha, here we go. The bookmarks and the envelopes. If you're following along with the Scrapbuster idea book, these are today's pieces that you'll need for inclusion in the book later on. And I had mentioned that I was going to be listing and loading some of these mini journals. These, the 3x4s that we made. And I've spent today, probably too many hours today, personalizing them. They're for sale in my Etsy shop. I believe there are some left. And I mentioned a long time ago in a video, if somebody purchases a journal, I like to have it for a day or two after, so I can add personal touches, personal things that that I hope or think they might enjoy. Maybe their initials on a charm or something. And so that's what I have been working on today. I made sure that no two are the same. And I also put some of the envelopes that I had mentioned, the 2 for $5 envelopes or the 2 for $6 if you're international, in my Etsy shop. And I will try to remember to link those below. Tools, I mentioned the punch board. This I use a lot of times when I'm making my bookmarks, and it is a slot hole or ID card punch. And I believe you can get them at most office supply stores, and you can also certainly get them on Amazon. It's maybe $10 or so. This is the corner chomper or corner rounder from Crocodile, but any corner rounder will work. I use the Score Buddy scoreboard, but again, there are lots and lots. This is just a little one. There's a bigger one. There are lots of different scoring systems out there. And several of you had very kindly given me some sources for magnets. And I had ordered them through Amazon. It's the basic gray magnet discs. And these are the ones that I used in this journal that I liked so well. And I've used them many times, but they hold real well and they're not very thick at all. And so each of the journals will probably have one of these in there just because I have enough magnets now. And these are kind of fun. The winner of the junk journal is Linda H65. In the highly scientific way I came up with that is, I asked my husband to give me a number between 1 and, I don't remember what it was, 200 and something, that had, I combined the comments from the last 2 days' videos. And if you commented, you were in that number. And I asked my husband to pick a number. He did, and Linda H65 was the one who matched the number that he chose. All right, there you go. Thank you very much for watching, and happy creating.